cultural projects or projects like Munarra, it's really about delivering for the community, working with the community and having those conversations and creating spaces that lift up the community and the people that use it and then those around it as well.
I think the building's story is part of its strength, that it's a grassroots building, a community client that had really dreamed for years about having such a facility, but also born out of sport, which is something we all share and often the sort of the thing that binds communities together. And I think some of the strength of the project is the strength of Yorta Yorta and their ambition to stand proud and tall in their community in Shepparton.
These many stories represented underneath the Aboriginal flag, which forms the roof and facade of the building, and it's kind of this national identity as well as the local Yorta Yorta community as well. So big stories and individual stories all kind of coming together, which is really exciting.
I mean, working with steel is a really interesting challenge and a really important challenge, particularly in regions and rural Australia. The use of steel in rural and farming buildings has been ubiquitous. The farm shed, the corrugated iron shed, and it's fundamental to the identity that buildings have in regions like Shepparton. And then you bring in that idea of fabrication and prefabrication, which is why farm buildings did that. How quickly can you get a building up? How can it be efficient? How can it be robust and stand the test of time? For metal profiles, they each have their different characteristics. We're interested in tactility and what it feels like to run your hand along a facade. We're interested in profile, what the building looks like in silhouette from a distance. Also how it performs over time. What does it look like with rain and dust and stain and shedding water and all of those very functional and fundamental profiles. So lots of choices to be made.
One of the important things was getting the colours right. We've got the Aboriginal flag draped over the building and working with Lysaght to get the right custom colours to deliver the project and have that instant connection. You're seeing fragments of yellow and red and black and making sure that translates really clearly was important. And so working with Lysaght to get a true representation of the flag was an integral part of the process.
It comes down to their selection of profiles. So obviously with, let's say, the flag or the walling and the roofing, they chose a wide flat pan type standing seam profile, which then also gave it from a distance, a smooth finish, and just, I guess, gives it that flag look, right? Because the flag's flat. And yeah, the selection of colours was great.
We needed to find a product that could deal with the geometry and reasonably complex geometry in the best hub project. It also needed to be able to be a long span product to remove excess sort of waterproofing scenarios from this complex project. It also needed to look great, a really smart looking, shiny black facade, and the roof's on show across the sporting precinct. So the product was able to perform on all of those fronts. We really must have our eye on what's the building going to be like for the next generation and the next generation after that. And that's often the appeal of pre-finished metal products like Lysaght's, is that they are going to be in the same state in 25 years' time as when you put them down, and leave a legacy for a community building that doesn't require ongoing painting, ongoing maintenance.
Winning the awards was a great recognition of, we can be really site-specific, really responsive in a very economical way. It's a really simple project. It's a single-story steel frame building out in the country, but it punches well above its weight. It delivers something that's unique in Australia, and both in the program within it, but for the architecture to be represented in that as well. It's been a really exciting opportunity. We hope that these are the first projects of many more to come and that we want to be involved with, but seeing other people doing as well. So it really was a pilot project that's getting great recognition.